Monday, October 8th, 9 a.m. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, received comments from the public. Does anyone like to step forward and address the board on an issue that's currently not on the agenda? Seeing no one come forward, we'll go to number 4, discussion of possible action to approve claims dated October 8, 2018 in the amount of $2,028,923.15.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, public hearing on proposed amendments to the Muscatine County zoning ordinance to add requirements related to telecommunications towers, transmission towers in A1 agricultural districts, R1 residential districts, I1 light industrial districts, and I2 heavy industrial districts. We are in a public hearing.
Okay, good morning. As you're probably familiar with, telecommunication transmission towers are special permitted uses in those districts that you just read off, the R1, the A1, the I1, and the I2 district, which means in order to construct a telecommunication tower, an applicant must apply for a special use permit and go in front of the Board of Adjustment and be granted that special use permit. Those are the only districts where those are allowed under special use permit. They don't show up anywhere as a permitted use or any other, so that's been our normal process. However, in the zoning ordinance, they just simply show up as telecommunication tower, transmission tower as a special permitted use. No other clear guidelines as far as specific setbacks that are any different than a setback for a house or a building in those districts. The Board of Adjustment has wrestled with the last couple applications we've had over the last couple of years with requests that were a little closer to the road than they were comfortable with, or property lines. They asked that the county take a look at adopting some specific requirements for co-location of antennas on existing towers, setbacks, fencing, perimeter fencing around the towers. So the zoning commission considered this issue and came up with some recommendations that would accompany this particular special use in those districts. We cannot require co-location on towers anymore. As of 2016, the state passed some legislation that allows companies to put up their own towers if they provide us with a certified statement that it's too cost burdensome or maintenance on the existing towers. So we were kind of, the local jurisdictions were kind of blocked a little bit on just straight up requiring co-location. However, we can adopt regulations for setbacks, perimeter fencing, visual screening, that type of thing that you typically see in zoning.
So those that are already established are grandfathered?
They are.
Okay.
They are.
Now, second question. On this change here, how does that affect or not the towers and thing that's been brought before us by the engineering department?
Well, Keith and I have been in contact with that company, explained to them that as far as we have determined, and I believe the county attorney agrees with us, this would be subject to our zoning regulations. I've not received an application yet from this company. Like I explained to you, I think a couple weeks ago, it's my feeling they're trying to circumvent zoning regulations. If we update our ordinances and they go into full effect before we have an application from this company, they'll be subject to these restrictions as well. But right now, they're trying to circumvent zoning altogether.
But, so if we take our normal time frame with the public hearings on this before it's approved, they come in before we prove, then you can just say, well, I think we need to table that to see where and then I can approve it based on the regulations that's in process. In other words, we can play their game, right?
You could. You know, there's always it's always an opinion probably among legal scholars as to whether you have the right to play games, as you say like that. But you know, we didn't have anyone attend the public hearing of the zoning commission, and no one is here. I might recommend that you consider waiving your third and final reading if you want to get these on the books quicker. you certainly have the ability to do that, especially given, the absence of any feedback to the proposed regulations whatsoever.
Well, it would be, I think, appropriate that we could go ahead and approve on the second reading. That gives them one more chance, because of this being published, the outcome that, hey, this is taking place, and it's gonna be approved. And then, if they don't address it at that time and we pass, as far as I'm concerned, that's that ordinance takes place, and they'll have to abide by it.
Yeah, I mean, and Alan's aware that these two things are kind of proceeding parallel to each other. He still recommended highly that we adopt some specific regulations, get that done. But my opinion at this point is we've informed them that they're subject to zoning. They've not submitted an application, so if our ordinance is published before they submit an application, and even if they do submit something before it's in full force and effect, the Board of Adjustment has the authority under law to require certain conditions or stipulations that they feel are reasonable and necessary when they grant a special use permit. And so I've advised this company, hey, we're in the process of adopting some specific regulations, but these are the reasonable and these are the conditions that you're probably going to get as a minimum from the Board of Adjustment, even if you apply before we adopt them. This came from the Board of Adjustment, these concerns, this is what they wanted the zoning commission to take up. It's just a lot easier to enforce if we have them specifically codified.
Okay, that brings up another interesting point, which I think you just made for us. So, let's say this all transpires. They file an appeal, they complain because they want to do it their way and not the county's way. That legal battle goes to Board of Adjustment, not to us, correct?
Yeah, sure.
They're a judicial body.
Sure. But yeah. Yeah.
Let them
And we're not doing this to play games.
No.
Not really, no, that was a poor choice of words.
I mean, I understand what you were trying to say, I just wanted to specify, we're not trying to play games on this, this is for public safety.
Absolutely.
And this is for, these are companies that are headquartered 1,000, 2,000 miles away from here, they don't care what our landscape looks like, or how they, or what they do to the land, as long as they get their tower up.
No, my concern, it was a poor choice of words, because it is about safety. My concerns with this whole thing have been some of the information you've given to us regarding the height of some of the towers, regarding the stability or potential lack of stability because of the base of the guy wires and stuff. That's my concern. So, yeah.
Design.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Matt's point, this recommendation predates this latest issue with this latest company. This came as a result of a different cell phone company that came in, proposed a location. They'd already done their soil analysis, and it was closer than the Board of Adjustment would have liked, and they argued it was unreasonable to make them move after they'd spent money on engineering and for a site, and weren't aware that the Board of Adjustment was going to request a setback of a certain distance. And so we're not playing games with any specific company at all. We started this ball rolling. This was becoming an issue, having some vague guidelines prior.
We don't want them to deal with plead ignorance anymore.
So the standards, the recommendation is to amend each area or each zoning district language where it says telecommunication transmission tower by adding the following language. Telecommunication transmission towers shall be located on private property outside of the public road right-of-way and observe a minimum setback of 1.1 times the tower height from any property line, road right-of-way, or other structures. All towers and supporting equipment shall be completely enclosed within a perimeter fence consisting of a minimum of 6 feet tall chain link with at least 3 strands of barbed wire or equivalent as approved by the zoning administrator. All applications for new telecommunication towers shall be accompanied by an affidavit certifying that said tower will be dismantled and removed from the property within 90 days of decommissioning or non-use. So that's the recommendation from the zoning commission for some very specific requirements to be attached to any special use permit of a telecommunication transmission tower that's been reviewed and approved by the county attorneys.
What's the remedy if they don't do it?
It is essentially a zoning violation, just like any other zoning violation.
And
we would issue them an order to do it, and if, to remove it, and if they do not begin removal of it, we would have to summons them using our enforcement ordinance, request a summons to associate district court, under which a magistrate would, you know, hopefully then we'd get a judgment from them, ordering the removal or any penalty, financial or.
And if they go bankrupt,
I would assume it's like any other enforcement of any other, it becomes a struggle.
yeah. Is there any way to, what would you think about having them post some kind of a bond against that eventuality?
We certainly could.
Do you have any idea offhand what that might cost?
No. I mean, I'd have to go back, you know, and look at like what it costs recently to take down a few cell phone towers to come up with a ballpark. I know we've taken down some radio towers. I don't know that they were as big as some of it. It just depend greatly on the size and type of the tower. Some of them are monopole, some of them have guide wires and concrete anchors and, you know.
I like that idea though, Nathan, that's good.
And what about, I don't know, this may be a little far-fetched, but what about the county takes title to any scrap metal that can be derived from an abandoned tower?
If they are unable to remove it or just in addition to.
Either way. I mean, I don't like the idea of folks getting out of an obligation by some sleight of hand in the bankruptcy courts.
Right.
Which is, and maybe that's not something that frequently happens, maybe that's not a huge concern, I guess I'd be interested in knowing more about that. But, I mean, I'm with Bob in terms of accelerating this process, so I don't think I'd want to delay it just to find that out, but, you know, like Matt said, these guys don't, you know, give a rip about our county, they're in it to make money, and they're not in it for the stewardship.
It's true. I like the bonding idea. Okay.
But you could actually, even if there was a problem with researching that, in order to expedite this, we could go ahead and expedite this, put it through, and then amend it later on with the additional bonding portion. Because, yeah, I don't know if we want to stall this, or take it through poor choice again. I don't know if we're gonna go through this.
It's probably a great idea because, you know, we're getting proliferation of all this type of thing, wind turbines, all this stuff up in the air, and, you know, it's all gonna come down someday, it's just a matter of when. And who's gonna be responsible for it, you know, the taxpayer to be feeling that burden, they're not the one.
Yeah, and it's getting more complicated as well, it's not real simple.
Yeah, well, and you know, and that allowed me to go back and look at the other sections of the ordinance, because to your point, Jeff, on the wind turbines, you know, we recently rewrote or amended our ordinance to accommodate commercial wind farms. And we require bonding, this is my recollection, we require bonding for, to cover damage during construction. But I don't know that there's anything in there about decommissioning and payment if that issue arises, so that might, you know, if we look at, we may need to add it to more than one section of our ordinance for some other type of facilities that would, you know.
I think we went over this with the wind farm thing, and is the CSR factor, is that gonna play into these sites as well?
No, it doesn't, typically, because it's already considered a special use, which means that it's, generally acceptable. The land taken out of production is extremely minimal anymore on these towers. They're, you know, they're so small, the footprint is, they farm right around them, and so that's not generally, there isn't a list of criteria.
So the house, will we make those people jump through hoops?
Right, well, a house, you have a house and you end up having a yard and outbuildings and driveways, and I'm just saying, when it was originally added as a special use permit, there wasn't any criteria to be considered, like strict criteria like there is for rural residents. If that's something you guys feel strongly about, we can add that at this time.
Well, I just think it's, I've said this before, and it's a double standard. We have people that own the land, they pay taxes on the land, they farm the land, they wanna build a house on it, but yet we're gonna hold them to some CSR restrictions of where they can put their house or where they wanna put their house, but we'll let some wind farms or some telecommunication towers come in and build wherever they want. That does not make sense to me.
Well, if they farm the land, they're not having to ask for permission because they're presumably farm exempt. And so, you know, they're essentially exempt from
Yeah,
everything.
and I'll tell you too, which you may not agree with, but there's an argument on the side of, towers and so forth like this fall into the same realm as a road, and it's for the public good. So they, you know, they could argue that side of it, and I'm sure they would. There'd be arguments against, but there'd be arguments.
Traffic generation, once a tower's up, there's no additional traffic out in the rural areas on our
So
secondary.
are additional tax dollars from new construction.
Well, hey, I'm not taking a side, I'm just saying, you'll get an argument like that because I can see it coming. You know, it's a public good thing, verbal
I just know how
So
many
as long as
people,
it's available to all the taxpayers on the same basis as the road, I'm fine with it.
yeah.
I just know how many people we turned away or made
Yeah.
jump through hoops because of
Yeah.
this CSR thing. And
No, I get it.
I
mean-
mean, I think you should be able to use your land for whatever the heck you want, as long as it's legal.
I'm with you.
Yeah. But yeah,
I don't wanna hold it up either, but I wouldn't mind seeing something like that.
Well, I think we could add,
yeah.
come back then after it's
Right.
reviewed and come up with something we all like.
You know.
Put it on there.
Okay.
So
I'll make a
when
motion to
it-
close the public. hearing.
Well, when, in the process of that though, what, do we need to state anything about saying that, you know, we're gonna vote on it on the second reading? Does that need to be part of this, or how do we do that?
Or is it just become an agenda item?
I think what you need to do is you need to take action to close the public hearing,
Okay,
to vote on the first reading, and then give me direction to include, second reading and waiver of third reading on next week's agenda, if that's what
I
you want.
make a motion based on that.
Second.
But first we have to close the
First, have to
public
close the
hearing.
public hearing.
And
Here's where I'm at, I got a
Jeff,
motion,
This was a little
I
funny.
moved to close the public hearing.
I got a motion from Jeff already.
Second.
We got a
Go,
second then,
done.
so I got a motion from Jeff, a second from Matt. This is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Nathan? And I vote aye. Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve an ordinance to add requirements related to telecommunications tower, transmission towers in A1 agricultural districts, R1 residential districts, I1 light industrial districts, and I2 heavy industrial districts on the first of 3 readings, but we are going to,
just take action on this one first.
okay?
So I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. Again, this is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Bob?
All right,
Matt?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And then,
And then by consensus, the board is directing me to place on next week's agenda, the second reading and waiver of third reading. And just so we're all clear,
I'll go leave that.
what you took action on today and what you're taking action on next week is what's already on paper in front of you. We may consider further amendments at a later date. Okay.
Okay. With that, next is review and possible action to accept a variance granted by the Muscatine County Board of Adjustment on October 5th, 2018.
There's one variance granted by the Board of Adjustment last week. This was to allow a homeowner to build a detached accessory structure in front of their primary residence instead of in the side yard or rear yard space. The building would still be the minimum setback, 50 feet. It would actually be considerably more than that. This occurred in the Woodland Hills subdivision. It's an older subdivision off 280th Street, right down off 61 at the Wise County line, if you're familiar with that. That owner actually owns 2 lots. However, the Board of Adjustment did recognize this was really almost a textbook case for a variance. Steep slopes, very unique topography, little to no negative impact. They even made a comment, this is the type of variance that they expect to see and enjoy granting for people. So just allows him to put a detached garage in really the only available spot on a couple of unique lots that he has. So that was what the variance was granted.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Is that everything, Eric?
I believe so.
Very good. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, sir.
Number 7, items with county engineer Keith White. Morning, Keith.
Good morning.
First is discussion of possible action to approve various utility permits.
We have 2 this morning. The first is from Interstate Power and Light, Muscatine, Iowa. And that's for a 2-inch plastic main for 160 feet along the east side of Tipton Road, just south of Bayfield, to just north of the intersection. And then install a 1/2-inch plastic service from the end of the main to 2519 Bayfield Road. So it's just an extension of a gas main on Tipton to serve the property that was the old Grange, Bloomington Grange there. And the second one is from Eastern Iowa Light Power, Wilton, Iowa. And they are plowing an underground cable near the entrance to 1495 231st Street. They're basically boring across the road from pole to pole, so they're putting that service underground as opposed to above ground. That's it.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
second by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I'm abstaining because one of those, my firm is involved in the acquisition of one of the properties.
Very good. Projects update.
The precast culvert project out on Iron City Avenue, they're near completion of setting of the pipe sections. They've got the ends to set. They're hoping to set those today and get the flowable in between because they're concerned that they're gonna lose their dam. They've kept their site amazingly dry, but, you know, the waters are rising, and so let's hope they get that done, or we're gonna have a big problem. But so hopefully that's good news. Out on G28, the subdrain and culvert repair projects, they got about a mile of subdrains left to put in. They've got the liners in the pipes, but they got all the in work on a bunch of culverts to do. No change in what we know about the hot mix resurfacing, probably not gonna happen this year. Our seal coat's complete. Traffic markings, Vogel did come back and repaint for the 3rd time. So hopefully we're done with them. And then the reclamation and seal coat, which would be Steel Mill Road and Underwood, we suspended work on that October 1, so a week ago today. They would already use 23 out of 30 working days, but we're basically postponing that to next year. We're getting late in the year, not the time to be, and the weather conditions. When they reclaim it and inject the asphalt emulsion, it has to have a couple weeks of drying. It's very high risk at this point, so we basically are pushing that till next spring. Our bridge deck patching, last we knew was scheduled for mid-October. That may not make it this year. Our parking lot project, we have a pre-con today at 2 o'clock. And we'll know better what their plans are, but their last plans were to start tomorrow. So they may wait on some weather or may not, but that'll get underway. And in the design world, again, I think everything's going along pretty well. We're mainly in the right-of-way acquisition phases on those things. Questions on any of that? Other note, I will say, we finally put the tractor and rock trailer into operation last week, and it worked beautifully. To be, it's nice to get one right once in a while. So I mean, it did. It worked beautifully. So we think that'll be a really good thing ahead. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Number 8, discussion and possible action to approve the following reports. A is County Recorder's Office report of fees collected for the quarter ending September 30th, 2018 in the amount of $63,105.84.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. County Auditor's Office report of fees collected for the quarter ending September 30th, 2018 in the amount of $379.75.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. C, County Sheriff's Office Civil Department's report of fees collected for the quarter ending September 30th, 2018 in the amount of $22,922.44.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. D is County Treasurer's Office report of fees collected for the quarter ending September 30th, 2018 in the amount of $227,683.67. I've got a motion by Bob and a second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
And
passes.
as Jeff mentioned earlier, big jump in interest on that
Right.
report for treasurers, so. Yep. Signs of things to come, I think.
Number 9 is discussion and possible action to allow/disallow 2018 business property tax credit applications as recommended by the county auditor. These are available for review in the administration office.
Yeah, they're all subject, the book was here for you guys to review if you so chose. They were all being approved except for two parcels, which one was, they were both class changes. One was going, it's no longer classified as commercial. It went to, she didn't put on here which direction it went. The other one went from commercial to tax exempt. Maybe both. That one didn't. Oh, the other one I think went to residential.
I think it was because they added residential above it so that it no
Oh,
longer
yeah,
qualifies.
it no longer qualifies, yeah. First one went from, it was school district bought it, so it went from commercial to exempt.
So, all move to approve. Second.
I got a motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of October 1, 2018 regular meeting. Motion by Nathan, second by Matt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And number 11, correspondence. Bob, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Nathan?
Just the letter I think we all got from the Jefferson County, I told you what it was last, I can't remember, just.
Jefferson County
Something like that.
Friends, just a minute.
This was.
Jefferson County Farmers and Neighbors Incorporated.
There you go. About sustainable agriculture and things like that.
They run those about every year,
Every
every
year.
other year, something like that.
Yeah.
We're always invited.
Is that all you had, Nathan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I had nothing. Jeff?
Nothing.
Matt?
Nothing.
Committee reports, Matt? Jeff?
Nothing.
I had none. Nathan?
No.
Bob?
The only committee report I had was, for last Tuesday, was the Emergency Management Commission, and, we unanimously hired Mr. Brian Wright to be our emergency manager. So, now it's just a matter of him, making his adjustment to the, leaving the fire department and coming on board here, which I think will be a
Very good. 13, receive information from county employees. Do we have anyone that needs to address the board? No?
I would just let you know that today we begin in-office absentee voting, and we will be mailing absentees out in the mail starting today, 2 absentee ballots, so people could start looking. Those who have already requested them, which we've had over 1,200 so far, so those who've already requested them will be receiving them in their mail sometime in the next couple days. They're going out today, so.
I'll add to that, Leslie, that congratulations to your department, because I know there's been several people that's contacted me, and I referred them to you, your office, and they let me know that they were handled professionally and quickly.
Thank you.
And that your staff is gonna send those things out as soon as they-
They're all ready to go out today. Obviously, the post office is closed, so they won't get postmarked today, but they will be going out first thing tomorrow morning. We'll be running them over to the post office as soon as the post office opens.
Very good, thank you. Number 14, items with the administration office. A is discussion and possible action authorizing the chair to execute an equipment contract with Shoemaker Elevator Company in the amount of $86,842 for the Muscatine County Administration Building Elevator Replacement Project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. Any discussion on the board about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. B, discussion and possible action to approve resolution 10081801, naming depositories, treasurer's office.
Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Nathan.
Nancy, the question I had on those when I looked at them, I saw the big discrepancy in the amounts by institution. Is that at their request?
The CBI one is so much higher because I think that's where we maintain most of our money for day-to-day operations.
That's where all our checks are written and everything.
Yeah, the other ones, that's based on Amy's request. I think it has to do with where she's getting the best interest rates.
So usually she'll list the interest rates for us too. I didn't see that. Or maybe we had to ask them before she sent them, but I recall seeing them many times before. So I'm kind of curious what the rates are this time. Maybe she could drop.
I can ask her to.
So the big discrepancy is driven by our working capital at the
Yes.
one institution.
Yep.
Would make sense. They probably don't deviate
Sure.
too much.
Sure. This is is that all the questions? This is a roll call vote. Matt?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I vote aye. C, action to accept September 2018 payroll claims.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Nancy?
I just wanted to remind everyone that the county flu shots, there's been a delay in those being shipped, so we will not be doing flu shots tomorrow as originally planned. As soon as we get notification of when we will receive them, we'll notify all of our employees again.
Very good.
Where do they go for that?
We typically have it set up at this building for an hour, and then community services building for an hour, and then the county engineer's office for an hour at the end of their day.
Okay, very good. Is that everything then, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. If there's nothing to come before the board, meeting adjourned.